Hello and welcome to Ink versus Algorithm, the Writers Pod. And I am thrilled to welcome TH Forrest
Hey.
to the pod. Hey.
Yeah.
You have an interesting and evocative focus in your works. You've got multiple novels. You've got a website and business, it seems, dedicated to helping indie authors. And you seem right in the sweet spot, ground zero of staking the claim of real people sharing real lived experiences and real points of view with what it looks like
Sure.
zero. I see zero AI in reading your stuff.
Good, because I don't know how to use AI at all. So yeah, there's no AI involved. Not in my artwork and not in my writing. Yeah, I have kids that have explained to me how it works, and I have no. I don't need to use it, and even at work, even though I know people use it at work to help them write professional emails or whatever, but I don't even do that.
Yeah, that willful ignorance is glorious, especially these days. You seem to
I
have a
know.
focus on queer relationships, queer dating, and how did that come to be a niche for you?
That's such a good question. All right, so we're going to go back to the beginning. So during the shutdown, the pandemic in 2020, I, like a lot of people, was consuming a lot of TV. Kind of came to the end of, watched everything on Netflix and rewatched the show Supernatural for the third time. But disclaimer, I have not watched the final season because it was too upsetting to conceive of. I think they do away with a couple of my favorite characters. And two, it was like, if you don't watch the last season, it's like the show never ended. So that's my so the first book I wrote is the book that I'm about to release in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, on the 22nd. It's called Descendants of the Gods. I wrote that as fan fiction for Supernatural. So the main male character is like Dean Winchester. He's got a partner. His partner's not his brother. It's a guy that he met when he was a kid. They were in a junkyard. And he was with his dad. And so they're partners. They're like best friends, partners. It's kind of, there's like a little bit of a big brother, sort of almost dad vibe because the guy's a little bit older. But anyway, and they need help with a case, and it's kind of like, it's a little bit like, they're like the X-Files, kind of like Men in Black, kind of supernatural. So they need her to translate. They need this university professor to translate some cuneiform for them, and that starts this whole, changes everybody's lives forever. And in this book, I knew that in this love interest with Finley is the lead female character. I knew that I wanted there to be a little bit of a tension, but there was going to be a scene where Luke was like questioning whether she was now dating her ex, but I didn't want him to really be an ex. So I made this, her best friend is a former Navy SEAL, and he's like deep in the closet. And she introduced him to his live-in boyfriend, and nobody knows that he's gay. And it was very important that to the story that he be so deep in the closet that, like, Luke, who actually the reader knows is an NSA agent, like, could get all the background on this guy, but there's nothing that says he's gay. So he's like, oh my God, he's back with her, like she's back with him, like whatever. I wanted there to be that tension, but I didn't want it to be ever have been romantic. So this is my long story short, telling you that, like, I didn't set out to write romance, male romance. I didn't set out to write queer romance. I set out to write supernatural fan fiction. But every time I wrote about Matt, that's his name, and every time I wrote about Matt, I was like, God, he's such an interesting character. Like, and then knew that she had introduced him to his boyfriend Ollie, who is a British um, lawyer, and they met in Oxford, Finn and Ollie. And she introduced them. And so I was always like, when I was writing them, I was like, there's a story there. And then they started nagging on me. They were like, tell our story. We're more interesting. So I opened I opened a new document and I wrote 6 books about them. And I put Finn, her story went to the back burner. And they just, like Matt and Ollie, they get up to some shenanigans. As Matt, you know, it's people either really love the books or they hate the books, and I'm fine with that. I don't want to be a middle of the road. Like, yeah, it was okay. Yeah. So I wrote those books, and then I took a writing class. So the pandemic was like winding down. There's a great nonprofit in Boston, which is, I live outside of Boston. It's called Grub Street Press, and it's like you can take classes for writing. You can do incubators, things like that. So I took this class on the narrative because I'd never written anything before the pandemic. I was a history major, so I wrote a lot of research papers. I've written some research articles in my other life, but so I took this class and it was on the narrative because I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. It's interesting to me, but so in the class, we read examples of all the different kinds of narration that are out there: first person, second person, third person, like all of them. And the teacher gave us examples to read aloud. And the one example that I read aloud was from The Catcher in the Rye. So I don't know if you've read that recently. Like, I didn't even really remember the book. I had to read it in high school, like most people, and probably did the Cliff Notes. No, I never even did Cliff Notes, but I don't remember the book. And I was like, oh my God, when he's like, oh, if my parents knew I was telling you any of this, they would have a hemorrhage and a half. And I was like, I want to write like this. And so I had already written all these other books. They're all in third person, Descendants and the whole Matt and Ollie series. And I was like, could I go back and rewrite it as first person? I was like, it sounds like a lot of work. So the class was like early November, and I was mulling it around, and I was like, God, I want to write a book like this. I want to write about a kid. I want to write about like a juvenile, like, teenager. And spitballing it, I'd already done all this research on Oxford and England and London, and I'm, a self-professed kind of Anglophile. I love Kensington, I love Mayfair, I love London, and had recently been to Oxford. So I did all this research. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make him British, and I'm going to make him gay, and I'm going to and I don't know how much time you have, but it was Thanksgiving, and my husband has an aunt. She's phenomenal. She was like a Studio 54, like New York, like she's awesome. And so it was Thanksgiving. It was, again, rolling out of the pandemic, and I was talking to her about like, oh, we got onto the topic of porn. As one does at the Thanksgiving table. And I'm long story short, getting around to my debut novel, which was the eighth book that I actually had written. So we were talking about porn and how it was like, back in the day, you'd go to a video store. My friend worked in a video store, and they had the back room, and people would go in the back room, and then they'd come out with their selection, and it was all. But now it's like it's everywhere. You can just log in. You can find people are doing like OnlyFans. They've got all these sites. And we were talking about it. I was like, who does that? And it's all amateur mostly, but back in the day it was like studio. And it was like, who does this? Like, who films themselves, and just puts it on the internet really for like anyone to see. And a lot of it's not even behind a paywall. Right. So we were talking about that. So it was after that I woke up in the night, and I was like, oh my God, he's not only going to be gay, he's going to get into porn. He's going to find a guy, and the guy is going to get him doing porn. And I wrote that book in 6 weeks. And I then spent the rest of the year kind of editing it, having it beta readers and whatnot. And I released it And so it was my last book that I wrote. It's called Twinkies and Beefcake. It's the story of Robbie. He's 15 at the beginning of the book, and he meets this guy, and he's older. So Robbie's 15 going on 16. He turns 16 and Vass is, so Robbie's like posh and he's from Kensington. His grandfather is an earl, and Vass is from Manchester. He's solidly like working class, gym head, and just locks eyes with Robbie and makes it, So there's a question of like, clearly he's groomed, but Robbie lies about his age, and it's a coming of age story more than it is an romance. So I wrote that. That was my first book that I published. I had friends help me with the whole marketing process, which, if you want to talk about that, it's hard. It's hard being an indie author and getting your voice out there amongst all the other, tremendous voices. So,
well, that's a great story about your story. There's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with fan fiction. So you got Supernatural, which is like your favorite TV show during the pandemic, and you're all into it. And then I'm tacitly assuming that the characters are offshoots from the show. What's the relationship between your love of Supernatural during the pandemic and your own writing?
Okay, so that's a good question. So there's no similarities really to the characters in the story. I kind of used it as an inspiration, really. I knew that. So the difference between Descendants of the Gods and Supernatural is there are no witches, there are no vampires, there are no werewolves. There's none of that. So it's strictly gods and demons. And I did a ton of research when I wrote this. I looked into Mesopotamia because I was like, I wanted to go as far back in human history as I could with gods, because I postulate that like the gods have always been real and that they've just had different names. I'm not the first person to say this, by the way. I came across this in my research. There was a guy, I'm going to butcher his name. I think his name, he pronounced it Herodotus or Herodotus. I don't know.
Herodotus, the historian, the Greek historian.
Yes. Oh, good. So you know him. All right. He said, he's the one who said, the Greek gods are the same as the Roman gods and the same as the Egyptian gods. So I just took it even further and I went back to Mesopotamia. So the character of Enlil, he is basically Zeus. And so he factors in the book. I have a character named Isamud. He is essentially Hermes or Mercury, the messenger god. And there are demons. And so a little bit of the way that in Supernatural demons would possess people, but people would be possessed, I think, through their mouths. And I have it so that they go in through the brainstem. And so you can mark your body. That's another thing that's from Supernatural. They have these like marks that you can trap a demon or whatever. You can put it on the wall and they're trapped in the room. So there's like, I used little things like that. But then I was like, Dean never had a love interest. I know people really shipped him and Cass, and that would have been, something interesting to write about. But I wanted Dean. I was like, he never got his like love story truly, and so I had. Oh, and I also, so it's in the title, Descendants of the Gods. I also say that not only are they real, but like all the stories about them, like Hercules, Perseus, like all of these where gods were, intermingling with humans, that happened. And you did have demigods, and then their bloodlines have lived on, and that would explain why some people are really superior athletes, or they're super smart, and that they, stand out kind of from the population, and that not only that, but that they're drawn to each other. So, so like Finn she's got a bloodline. Luke has a bloodline, Matt has a bloodline, Ollie has a bloodline, and they're all descendants from different gods. And you find out in the book, who's who.
Yeah, I mean, Carl Jung talked about the archetypes, where our stories about gods and goddesses and all of our mythology resonates instinctually within each of us. We're born to tell certain stories and not others, and then our
Uh-huh.
tales of these gods and goddesses are these expressions down to our DNA, if you will, or our programming. And then you have writers like Neil Gaiman. He's been Me
Oh,
Too'd and he's had some recent issues, but
oh, has he? Oh, I
yeah,
didn't get that.
he's
Oh
the
no.
champion of a lot of this. So his book American Gods was a big bestseller, and it
Yep.
operates off a very similar type of structure, that the gods are real, they're amongst us, and they take on very human qualities because, as they say in the pagan rites too, as above, so below. They're jealous of each other. They're greedy. They're narcissistic. They have all of our good and bad qualities. And I'm assuming you just dialed it up in those directions too. So, all right. So
Yeah.
it's the pandemic. You're into supernatural. You're inspired by this motif of the
Right.
gods living amongst us with all these
Yeah.
lines and lineages. And then you have two characters, and then they get involved in an M&M kind of relationship, and then you discover organically that that's like your thing. You're into it. It's just naturally coming out. And as a writer, I can attest to this too, is that you might have like this mental construct, I'm going to write about this or I'm going to write about that, but when you actually put pen to paper or your fingers on a keyboard, then your unconscious and your own creativity and your own soul activate in a way where, no, you know what, I'm going to write about this. This is what really gets me going. And to your point, you just cranked out thousands of words within a really short period of time because it's just flowing out of you. And then you mentioned
Yes.
pornography, which is interesting because I've known many women across the full spectrum of sexual orientation, very, very heterosexual to gay, lesbian, and they love
Hmm.
watching gay porn, gay men.
Yeah.
So
They're a huge, yeah, I think they're probably even a bigger consumer than gay men. Yeah.
So this hits on a lot of different themes simultaneously of women, what we call these days cis women,
Yep.
interested in gay relationships, even gay pornography, in a way where you can emotionally really get into it and get vested in the characters and their
Yep.
situations, their own lived experiences from this vantage point, which is away from it and yet at the same time connected to it and vested.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting. I guess when I want to back up and say like when I say like who does that, I don't. It's not in judging because like clearly, thank you for your service, but I don't mean to say that. But it's just some people like they're in relationships and they're filming themselves, and it's like it's a very intimate act. It's not like oh I'm just this is just a content creator and I'm hooking up with this content creator and we have no relationship. It's people are really showing their own relationships like
Oh,
intimately. And so,
the internet and digital has really brought a level of transparency to a sex positivity that's been endemic forever, really. It's really brought it up to the surface. It's been an accelerant, no doubt, because you
mhm,
have these opportunities for everyone to kind of do their own kink. But I was a bar, disco, nightclub manager in the 90s, in the roaring
oh,
90s. And then you pretty much see everything there. And I can attest to the broad range of human sexual and social expression. That's for sure. So, and again, devoid of judgment too, which is just, you know what, go for it.
yeah, right, right. No, I think it's sex positivity is important. Absolutely. And sex work is work. So, I'm glad that these people can really make a lot of money doing it. And I wonder, I think a lot of, I wonder if a lot of the, you know, the women consuming gay porn might be like sort of safer for them, I think, in a lot of ways. I think psychologically, you know, like no part of them as a female, a cisgendered female, no part of them is being portrayed so that they don't ever feel bad about if they have body issues or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Or, I don't know.
The safety factor. I mean, I'm just a bald guy here in California, but from what I've seen, my lived experience and people I've known, and you know, just the reading and research that I've done, there is that safety factor, right? Where you see people involved, you see people very much sexually engaged, and you know, as mentioning before, you could be vested and interested and connect with it, but
Mhm.
it's something different. It's exotic and therefore outside yourself, and you don't have to feel vulnerable or exposed in any way.
Right, right. I know that like gay space for women is a very safe space. I mean, I think it, you know, you have to be so respectful of you know, entering that space, right? Like a gay bar or something like that. But like it's just you can go and be yourself and be fine and not have to worry about like some you know, like being, you know, being harassed. It's just I don't know. I don't know how I got on this subject, but I think it's just a safe
Central
space.
to what you're writing about, and it's very, very interesting. And I could even highlight the converse. I knew many very, very attractive female strippers and even sex workers through their stripping, pole dancing, and they were
Yeah.
lesbians. They had female relationships with other females. They were married to women, and you had these guys showering them with tips and gifts and jewelry, and they would turn around and give that to their lover or their wife, and that is a similar kind of model where you're performing sex work in whatever capacity, but there's no emotional connection. You're really just working. You're not attracted to the men who are salivating all over you, and you go home to your wife, and all is
Yeah.
well with the world. So there's that model too, which kind of
Mhm.
reinforces through the looking glass what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And what
good.
about you? What if you look at the source of your energy and enthusiasm for writing about M, you know, male to male, queer, romantic fiction, and it
Mhm.
clearly dominates your library so far.
Oh, so yes.
Where do you think that comes from? Do you see it? It goes beyond just comfort, because you could comfortably write about whatever. And you mentioned that you did history essays and that stuff before. Where do you think it
Yeah.
comes from within you?
I don't know. That's a really good question. Um, well, he's not my inspiration, but like if I could talk about a little bit about my publishing company and why I named it and the book covers, my book covers, yeah. So also during my publishing company is called Holdorf Press. My pen name is TH Forrest, and I dedicate all my books to my cousin Tom Holdorf. So those are the initials. His last name, so Holdorf Press. He was he died in 1994. He had AIDS, and he if he just it was one of those things. If he had just managed to hold on like one more year, you know, like the medicine just
Right there, the
yeah.
drugs were really kicking
And
in.
and 94 was a terrible year. I mean, we lost too many people to this pandemic, and you know, it's inexcusable. It's absolutely inexcusable. But that year we lost Herb Ritz, we lost Keith Haring, we lost Tom Holdorf, and he was a fashion photographer in New York, and he was only 38 when he died. And he would entertain me like his little like suburban cousin from like Massachusetts, and he'd let me come stay with him, and he took me he introduced me to Versace. He introduced me to Patty Hansen, who is Keith Richards' wife. She was walking down the street with her baby, like who's probably like 30 now, 40. Anyway, and he was just the coolest guy I ever knew, and I looked up to him so much. And I was devastated when he died. It was, you know, I was young. He was young. It was tough. So, during the pandemic, I had this bag, and it was in the corner of my like not like my sitting area. And I had kept looking at it. I was like, I got to put that away. And I knew what was in it. It was boxes and boxes of old letters. I used to save every letter. Like nobody writes letters anymore. People save emails maybe, but I had just boxes and boxes of like cards and letters from friends, family, whatever. And one morning after I was, I guess I'd been thinking about him. I think about him every day, but at this point I was like thinking about him not as like all the time. And I got up and I was making coffee, and I was like, I got to do something with these. So I lifted the lid, and right on top was a letter from him that he wrote me, and he had like very distinctive handwriting. And I was like, oh my God, like, wow. And so that really started this whole like, okay, I'm going to start a publishing company. He, all these letters, and I was just reading them and I was sobbing like, oh my God, the things that we talked about. And like, he was doing some experimental photography, and he'd sent some of his photos to me. He also left me a bunch, but um, he, so he's like, oh, I hope you don't think it's pornographic. And like, it's so not. It was so tasteful. And considering what I had just written, Twinkies and Beefcake, I was like, oh, geez, I hope you don't think what I
Great
wrote.
title, by the way, Twinkies and Beefcake.
Oh, thank you again. That was like, that just came to me. And I think he's been in he's just in every bit of my life. He has sent me signs, like that was a sign. I had written, so I was going through the pictures that he left me. I had two of his briefcases of photos, and one of them was this woman, and she was draped. It's the cover of Descendants of the Gods. I don't know if we can throw it up or if you've seen it, but she's draped over cuneiform, and I was just like, she's got angel wings behind her. And like my book cover for Twinkies and Beefcake, I knew I wanted my character to have angel wings because there's a lot of symbolism in the book between Lucifer and Saint Michael, the archangel who, his army and banished Lucifer. Or did he kill him? Oh, he didn't kill him. But anyway, so and like there's just angel wings and cuneiform, and I'm like, how this is not a coincidence. This is not a coincidence. So, maybe I wanted to honor him a little bit by, celebrating, gay men. I love gay men. I mean, not you can't speak. It's generalizing. I mean, but all of my I love my gay friends.
Did
Yeah.
you
So
grow up in an open environment or a restrictive environment?
pretty conservative. And so that's why when I started going to see Tom, he never came out to me initially. So I'd go down and it never occurred to me. So when he had a civil union, so it was obviously a gay marriage wasn't legal, but he introduced me to his husband, and he's like, how do you how did he phrase it? It was something like, you know, did you know I was gay, or did you think I was gay? I was like, it never occurred to me to wonder. I literally never was like, I wonder if he's gay, or why doesn't he have a girlfriend? Like, it's not like I didn't know gay people existed. I wasn't like sheltered, but I wouldn't say that like growing up that I knew like a lot of gay people. It was like I went to an all-girls boarding school, so I knew a lot of lesbians. Not a lot. Sorry, I don't mean to say that. Wait, that came out so wrong. They're rampant. No, I knew a few.
So it sounds
That's
like the environment you grew up wasn't particularly restrictive, but it was cloistered in the sense where you didn't have any real interaction with gay people of any sort. Maybe a few women, like you mentioned, in school, but the idea of the gay man who now figures
Right.
prominently in your creativity wasn't even on your radar. And then you meet this iconic figure who inspires you. You create a terrific relationship with him, and then it didn't really occur to you that he might be gay. It's just he's just some dude who inspires you, and then well, he is gay. Well, surprise, surprise, and then he passed, and then he's remains your inspiration, and in a sense, your writing brings him back to life, if you will, as like an homage,
Yeah.
and
Right.
maybe you're equating creativity and liberation and freedom, self-expression with him and his life. So that could be a connection that might be there too.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I celebrate his life and don't want him to be forgotten. He was just a huge talent. Really, really was. He did a bunch of Stephen King book covers, actually. I have some of the outtakes from them. Uh, it was really good. Yeah. Yeah.
So he's a
So,
celebrity photographer and made a name for himself. And then, like so many folks, taken too young, right? And then it becomes kind of your memorial and your honor to your good friend. And then
well, he's
you,
my cousin. He's
oh,
my cousin.
okay. I missed
Yeah.
that. I didn't realize that you
Oh,
guys were
sorry.
connected that way. Yeah, yeah. All right.
Yeah, no, I was so cousin that he used to like tolerate. He
So
loved me.
I checked out the website, and thanks for the backstory. The model seems interesting, which is you're encouraging indie authors to partner up, and then you help them with self-publishing, and then you help them with marketing. Is that correct in terms of the business model?
Yes, that is. I'm getting ready to take submissions. I'm not open to submissions yet, but that is my goal. That is my business plan to, um, because if you publish just through Amazon, a lot of bookstores won't carry you because like Amazon's their competitor, so they won't carry an Amazon label in their stores. So this way they get an imprint. They have, they're published under Holdorf Press, and I provide them. There's like the free part where it's just, some guidance and everything, but it's up to you, the author, to do your own marketing, your own social media. But here's a plan. I have a marketing plan in place. Um, but yeah, no, that's my goal. Like I would love to become like like a indie press and you know make it a business, quit my job.
Well, many of our listeners are indie writers or writers who are either published or hoping to get published. Enlighten us a little bit based on your model of what you're conceiving here. I'm an indie author, and I know how hard it is to just get and sustain attention. Usually writers are good at writing and they're not that good at marketing and outreach. Seems like, it's rhythm and lead guitar. It's rare when you find somebody
Yes.
who can do both. So I fall definitely into the lead guitar camp. I love writing, and I feel that I've personally published the science fiction book of my dreams. You reach a point where you work at it, you work at it, you work at it. You're never satisfied, and I think I finally nailed it. But it
Yeah.
takes another effort to get people to
Oh,
notice and to care, get attention in this attention starved and commoditized age.
yeah. Yeah. And to do it on a shoestring budget too, because a lot of people who do write, it's not like it. Yeah. It's I would say one of the things that I've been fortunate with is partnering with some great people in the book talk community. It's setting out. So in the marketing plan, it's really setting out a date of like a timeline, right? Where you're gonna want a couple of months to build hype for ARC readers, which is the advanced reader copy readers. They, in exchange for getting, you know, first dibs on your book before anybody else gets to read it, they leave you a review, and they build the reviews, and you build Then you set a date for release and you hype pre-orders. And then you really go into the book talk and the bookstagram community, and you foster it. It does take time because, you know, you want to build trust.
How do you
But
get
you find,
noticed? So I've made the mistake that I think a lot of writers make, which is like, I know the channels are there. Like Book Talk is really the number one place, especially for new indie authors to try to get noticed. The only challenge there is it's a tsunami of Book Talk content. Everyone's hashtagging the hell out of their reels. So when I published, I did a few book talky kind of talks, and engagement was relatively low. I mean, I got my own followers to maybe chime in and show
yeah,
excitement, but I didn't really crack the book talk community at all. And I think the typical mistake I made was just to bungee cord in out of nowhere. It's like no one knows who I
yeah,
am, and I'm clearly
hmm
just hijacking the hashtag to get attention. I haven't forged any prior relationships, and it's not like anyone knows me. All of a sudden, there's this bald guy holding up a book with a white and black cat in a bathtub full of wires, talking about the multiverse and how exciting he is writing the book of his dreams. I mean, nobody gives a shit.
Seriously, I mean, it can feel that way for sure. You know, I mean, I'm
How do
not,
you do it
can't
the
crack.
right way? I did it the wrong way, which was I was impulsive, impatient, and when I wasn't really getting much response, I went on to just start the sequel. You know, I'm the writer. I'm not
Yeah,
really that
yeah,
into
yeah,
self promotion. So what's a smarter way to do it? And I think I'm leading my own question, which is it's all about relationships. So
yeah,
follow other writers, establish yourself as someone. I see your posts for Book Talk and you're reviewing other people's stuff, you're having conversations, you're actually an
yes,
active member of the community. Whereas, like I mentioned, I just said, "Hey, everybody, look how
yeah,
awesome my book is," and they're like,
right,
"Wow, well, f you, buddy. Who are you?"
yeah. Yeah, you have to get in before the book. You have to plan ahead. So before your book is even released, before it's even ready for ARC reads, um, you need to get on Book Talk and you need to start engaging with other people's content, and that's the way to do it. And you, I by no means, like, I only have 1,800 followers, and it's been a slow progression, but I know I've made friends with some really great indie authors, and I'm fortunate to call them friends. I mean, you know, online friends, whatever, a lot of DMs back and forth, but
Hook us up.
JP,
I would love to interview more
yeah,
people on the
yes,
pod
J,
too. You know, it could spread the word. That's one
JP
reason I
Joseph,
started this pod,
yeah,
is because I'm not very
yeah.
good at, sitting there on my feed and, spending a few hours getting to know people. I like to actually talk to people. So this podcast is a great opportunity for me to actually get to know other writers and to share their stories. So that's my mission here.
Well, I know I mentioned you to JP Joseph. He cracked #1 best-selling Amazon. He has a marketing background, so he knew what he was doing, and he's been super helpful to me. We're currently partnering
Great.
together to do a giveaway. Yeah, so we're doing a giveaway where 10 readers will get a copy of his debut novel, which is called King of Pain. It's phenomenal. It's received incredible feedback, such that he got himself a book deal. Like, I'm like, JP, how did you do it? So he's the one you should talk to about how he did it. But
Yeah, I'd
he was
love to
one of
have him on, and I hope that
the,
he would
okay.
just beat me up, like, take out a 2x4 and crack it between my eyes, because I am a marketer too, ironically enough. I market in the healthcare life science world, but when it comes to my own content, I'm like,
Yeah. Right. He's so phenomenal, and his debut novel, like, so the way that we met was he had a Book Talk account that I engaged with, and I was like, like a lot of what you have to do, and there is a nuance to it, and you can't just like elbow your way into people's content and leave messages. But I would go in and be like, oh, if you like this book, I think you'd really like my book, and I'd be happy to send you a free copy if you would like to read it. So you got to do a lot of that. And he
Yeah.
was someone that I engaged with, and he read appearances. Now he's somebody, he loves Matt Ollie. Thank God. Like he's one of my, like, he gets it. He gets the story. It's complicated.
He's a fan. That's
He's a
great.
fan. And so when he decided he was going to write a book, he reached out to me, and I read some of his very, very early drafts and gave him some good feedback. And then he took it from there. And his book, like I said, it's gone gangbusters. There's another author. I could reach out to her. Her name is Alex Cross, and she also writes MM. She's got 3 books out now. She's killing it. Like whatever she's been doing, she's done really well. And her books are really
This
well.
is
It's also
terrific. And it's not only for my edification, but that's the whole point of my podcast, is for encouraging writers to bust out, get your name out there, share best practices, and forge relationships, create relationships with like-minded. So it's the old adage that rising tides raise all boats. I had another guest on, Greg Sorber. I have another podcast, Science Fiction and Fantasy, and actually your stuff would fit in that bucket too. And Greg mentioned that we write fewer books than people read, so there's it's exponentially larger audience consuming content than creating it. So it's not mutually exclusive. If you're a writer and you share best practices with other writers, it's not like it's cutting into your sales. It's just like we helping each other out is really awesome, because then everyone gets uplifted, we enhance our network, we connect, we
Yeah,
learn stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so fortunate to be part of this community. Like the authors that I have made friends with are truly wonderful, wonderful people. There's a couple that are also, I have a thing for Australian authors too. And it's not just the accent. Some
You
of the
need
book
an
authors.
you need an Australian book to come out.
Yeah.
That'll be
Well,
your next one.
there's some great ones. Yeah. Let me see if I can reach out to them and see if they'd be interested in doing it. It's Ray Roberts. She's so great. Sasha Avicii. I call her Avicii because I can't pronounce her last name. It's Avicii, Avice. Avis. So I just call her Avicii, and I love her. I love her books. Her books are my favorite. She's such a talented writer. She writes the clueless male guy so well, and like the strong
For the audiobook,
does.
I'll do the clueless male guy. I think I fit that archetype pretty well. So this is terrific. It's just creating networks and connecting. So the big best practice and takeaway here is that if you are an indie author, this trope that you're in a cold, dark basement, and then you work for 6 months toiling away, and your fingers are bleeding, and you finally finish your book, and then you open up the door, it creaks open, and the light shines in, and ta-da! You're a genius, and that's it. That's
Right.
just bullshit. It's just not going to happen by itself.
No. Yeah. No. You gotta put some work into it, and the book talk community is it's also a really great community. Sometimes there's drama, but I'm always I'm like, wait, what did I miss? I'm not in that drama stuff, but like all the people that I'm friends with there as book talkers, like they're all so great. They're just, really, really great, and people that want to help, and want to, hype you, and yeah.
That's terrific.
So
I've also discovered that recruiting people, even for your audiobook, if you're willing to kind of flex and wing it. I was talking to our mutual friend Julianne Webb.
Oh yeah,
who I had
Julie.
on as
Yeah, yeah.
my prior guest on the Writers Pod. And her and I are talking about doing an audiobook version of my sci-fi masterpiece, and she's pumped. She's pumped to do voices, and I'm reaching out to other writers and
Oh.
friends, and that becomes a way that we network and partner up and market together. Yeah, and
I mean, if you want to hear well, I'm sorry, I'm so long-winded, but Julianne, she and I went to high
this
school
is
together.
your pod. You got the mic, so
Oh,
go
thank you.
for it.
Um, so she and I went to high school together, and she reached out to me. We were friends, but we didn't like stay in touch or see each other or anything. And so she reached out to me when I published Twinkies and Beefcake, and I put it in our high school bulletin, and I told people. And so she read it and she loved it, and she started telling me about the memoir that she's writing, and which I've read. I think I've read the entire thing. It's so good. It's so good. I really want her to publish it. Her writing style is so phenomenal. And so uh, so yeah, so we started, this back and forth. And then after Twinkies and Beefcake came out, I have a lot of friends that were like, "Well, I loved it, but I can't like review it because it's like, and or like I can't talk about it
Even
because
these
whatever."
days, people are still
Yes,
prudish these days. Really?
yes,
Right.
yes, yes. And so so what I did was, so I was like, okay, fine. I'll write a book that you can talk about. So I wrote Kelly's Folly, and he's the opposite in every way from Robbie. Robbie just can't get enough sex. He just lives like life to the fullest, and he's like just, out out there. And Kelly is dedicated. And so like I said, my books were set like either in London or Boston and Maryland, and because those are the areas that like I know. So when I wanted to write Kelly's Folly, I wanted to set it somewhere else. I was like, I'm just going to put it somewhere else just so I can't keep writing about Boston. So I decided, because for two reasons. One, because Julianne lives in Cincinnati. I was like, I'm going to put it in Cincinnati. And so I was like, I'm going to call her and ask her, to tell me all about Cincinnati and give me the vibe and all this stuff. And I also had this other friend whose husband works for P&G, which is headquartered there. And he like, so I kind of stole their, how they move around so much. P&G, as you get promoted, they move you. So a little bit of that is in my book. But I'm talking to her and I'm like, yeah, this is where Tom, like in heaven, wherever he is, it intervenes. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to make him, I want to make him like a diver. And I'm thinking, and she's like, oh, she goes, well, when, my brothers wanted to be Olympic swimmers. So we moved from Ohio to California so that they could train. And my brother dated Megan Nair. And he knew Greg Louganis. I could get you in touch with them. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what are the chances that, like, I was just like, I'll do some research, I just help me with Cincinnati. And here she is. She introduced me to Megan Nair, who is the all-time winningest ACC diving person in history. And she would have gone to the Olympics, but it was the year that was boycotted. Greg Louganis, I reached out to him. He didn't take me up on my offer, which is fine. I think his manager intervened. But then Megan introduced me to Kent Ferguson, who had been to the Olympics. And Kent, the book was born. And it was like, that was just absolute happenstance that she was like, oh, yeah, my brother, I can introduce. And the wealth of knowledge, like Megan, she's amazing. Kent is phenomenal. I don't think I'm outing him, but he's a gay man. He's married to a man. He's on Instagram with his spouse. And he really helped me with the gay experience at the Olympics and just being a gay athlete, and gave me some really great stories that are in the book. Like, I verbatim, I was like, I hope you don't mind that. He's like, no, I loved it. So anyway, so Kelly's Folly was born as the, antithesis of Robbie, um and like I owe that book to Julianne. I mean, seriously, she's the one who put me in touch with those.
And it really illustrates the power of friendships, networking, and
Yeah.
how it cascades not only in terms of marketing your book, but in terms of the creative process itself. Where
Right.
you
Right. And
meet
she introduced
people,
me
they
to you.
trigger you in great ways, and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden you're off to the races in ways you never even anticipated that are super fun.
Yeah. Right. And she introduced me to you. Yeah. So thank you.
And what
She's
about your
awesome.
readers? It's hard to do a market analysis, right? Like who is
Mhm.
actually doing the reading? You do get feedback. I read many of your reviews, which are glowing, and you've got
Oh,
your own fan base. So how would you characterize fans of TH Forrest? Gay men, women like you who love to read about Eminem. Uh, who's eating your stuff up?
I think it's mostly women and a few, yeah, and a few gay men. I'd say predominantly. It's probably like 70-30.
Yeah,
Um and yeah, they just
and
most
maybe
of
a
them
lot
I
of
found.
straight guys who don't know yet.
Yeah, right. Could be. Could be. I had a good friend of mine from high school that we reconnected sadly at a funeral for a mutual, like actually my ex-boyfriend back in high school passed away, so I reconnected with his friend group, and he read both Twinkies and Beefcake and Kelly's, and he loved them, and he's totally straight, and he's like, I think he even said that, I don't know if you read that review, he's like, I'm straight and I would never pick up this book, but I did because it's, and he loved it.
I
So
know you, and it's great. And again, you're writing, and I've read your samples, and I flipped through, and it's very genuine. It's emotional. It's quirky. It's funny.
thank you so much. Yeah, I really enjoy writing them. Uh, Descendants is my sixth book, sixth book. And even though it was the first one I wrote, it really needed a lot of editing. It's like learning a sport or learning a language. You get better the more you practice. So it's gone through a lot of rewrites. And I'll tell you, when I first wrote it, it was over 300,000 words. And I was like, oh, let me just look up how many, let me query this book, and I
Yeah,
started doing all this research.
that's like 1,100 pages. That's like 1,200 pages. Yeah, that's like the War and Peace of Eminem.
It was not good. And it was not good. So, so I was like, oh, and it was like, oh, the ideal novel should be around 70,000 words. And I was like, oh, whoops, I guess I'm going to have to take a hatchet to this thing. Um, so it's been through a bunch of, it's been ruthlessly edited. But I think it's like, I should look, I think it's like 500 and something pages.
Yeah,
So
so
it's
that's about
around 100.
150,000 words, I
Yeah.
think, based
Yeah.
on, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like David Mamet, the playwright and director, and
Yeah.
he's a
I know
novelist
he used to
too.
live in he used to live in my neighborhood.
No kidding.
Isn't
Where are
that,
you now? What?
shall I say? I'm outside Boston.
He's a Chicagoan who moved to Boston for a while. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Anyway,
what's
go
well, what's
ahead.
funny is so he lives around the corner, and when he moved, another director moved in, and I won't say who that is, but he's very well known. So he's
Well,
a
they
nice
all
guy,
know each
and his wife.
other. Mamet
Yeah.
probably
Well, it was
referred, I got this great pad. You want to check it out, right? They all know each other. But I bring up Mamet because not only is his style the antithesis of yours, and then his own machismo and testosterone
yeah,
frothing kind of style, but he had a great
yeah,
quote, which is, great writers start with a scalpel and end with a chainsaw. You just get rid of so much. You just you just hack away at it. So that's taking your 300,000 words and whittling it down into 70. which is more courageous than many people would think, right? Because you put so much time and effort
Yeah.
into just getting it on the
Oh,
page.
yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And I also noticed that you, to the point you made earlier, you don't just publish on Amazon, you publish on Barnes and Noble, you publish on just about all the platforms that are out there. Can you talk a little bit about content repurposing and distribution? We talked about book talk, and the takeaway there is don't do what Mookie did, which is just show up out of nowhere like an asshole and show off
Right.
your book and expect anyone to care. So don't do what this guy did. Don't do what I did. And then the opposite of that is doing what you do, which is forging relationships, talking about other people's work, celebrating other authors, and then ingratiating yourself in a sincere way in this
Yep.
vibrant social media community of readers, writers, agents, producers, everyone living and breathing book talk. It's not just about adding a hashtag to a reel. It's about living and breathing community. If you want to build community, you need to join a community. That doesn't
Yeah.
sound too complicated, but some people are dense like me. And then the other best practice is you mentioned this earlier too, is don't just publish on Amazon because other sellers won't sell you. You're gonna tell us a little bit about that approach.
So Ingram Spark is the company that all bookstores buy from. And if you want your book in bookstores, you have to upload it to Ingram. And so I always upload my books there first because one year with my first book, I put it on Amazon first, and then Amazon like stole my ISBN number, and like I had to fight them to get it back. So if you put it on Ingram Spark first, that doesn't happen. So and then what I also recommend people doing is a lot libraries, local bookstores, they love local authors and they're always looking to get people, in to shop in their stores. So I have done some readings, I've done signings, I've done the ones that I like the best are when there's like an author fair and you're with other authors and you're talking to other authors, but you're sitting there. So you're getting people, people are coming and you're not like the only one sitting by the door that everybody walks past because it's like, who are you? Which that happened to me at Bar.
You got the card table set
Yeah.
up, and
Yeah.
yeah,
All your like you gotta, there is an investment. You have to invest in, bookmarks and signage. I've got a tablecloth. But um but yeah, I say get out there, meet people, be on the ground. There's like Comic-Con
I
where
did
they
LA Comic Con actually, the one recently, and in
yeah,
downtown
how'd it go?
LA. I was invited by Ingrid Moon, who is a fellow science fiction writer. So it's in the science fiction genre. She was gracious enough to give me half of her table space. And
Oh,
I
nice.
reciprocated by selling her book when she went out onto the floor or grabbed a
That-
sandwich. And we actually became a pretty good team. And
That's good.
I read some of her books and I was like, how about we pitch it like this is Hunger Games meets Fallout? And she was, I never thought of that. And then when dudes would come by, I'd do a dude on dude kind of bonding. And they were like, well, what's this? I go, well, that's Ingrid's new science fiction book, Bio Hunter. And what's that? And instead of telling them the plot, I would just say, it's Hunger Games meets Fallout. And then he'd be like, oh, badass, give me a copy. So I felt good that I was helping Ingrid sell. And I
Yeah,
learned a
yeah.
lot from LA Comic Con. Like, have the QR code of your book so people can scan it,
Yes.
bring a nice
Yep.
colored tablecloth, do good signage, and display your books in a way that are appetizing. And I also learned that the cover is significant too. Covers of books make a big difference for selling your stuff live.
Yeah. And, and having something that's related to your book that's a giveaway. So whenever I have Twinkies and Beefcake, I always order Twinkies and cupcakes and I have them and people will come by. And it's, yeah, yeah.
That's
People are
really
like,
cute.
it's so funny because people are like, Twinkie, I haven't had one of these in years.
That's another great best practice. So when you're doing social media, writers, especially indie writers, join communities if you want to build your own community. Then the next best practice we're sharing is connect with other authors like we're doing. Talk to people, learn from people, support people. It's not even like quid pro quo, like I rub your back, you rub mine. It's more like we're just celebrating ourselves and our work, getting the word out there, and it's mutually beneficial to just, build it up that way. Publish on multiple platforms. Ingram, you mentioned, is a principal one to start, just to lay a good foundation and protect your ISBN number. And then go ahead on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. You obviously have a non-exclusive arrangement. How do you feel about audiobooks for your M&M saga?
So there's a huge community of people who read audiobooks, but it's expensive. I did an audiobook for Twinkies and Beefcake, and it was like $1,000. It's not cheap to hire talent. I, can't read it. I can't read my own books. I mean, maybe I could do my own Descendants of the Gods because it's, mostly, but I can't, do a man's voice convincing for that.
I'm going indie, I think, with my audiobook just to see how that could play out. I have an ex-life partner who I embodied as a character, as the ex-life partner of the anti-hero in my science fiction book. So the other day I just texted her. I go, yeah, I'm trying to recruit talent for my audiobook, all sorts of different voices, of which Julianne Webb, our mutual friend, is excited about. And I was like, would you want to be Julie Fazuli? The main character is Johnny Fazuli. Would you want to be Julie Fazuli in my audiobook? And she goes, sure. And I go, you wouldn't even have to do any kind of affectation or acting. Just be yourself. Just continuously nag me throughout the audiobook. Tell me I'm doing everything wrong. Give me advice unsolicited, and always call when you're least expected, and then
Right?
we'll have it made.
Oh my. So do you have a studio? Like, I mean, is that what because like that's the key, is that you have to have a place to record and the equipment to you know, get rid of all the dead space or the,
Well, that's the other thing I'm thinking of. I've been doing a little research. I use the Riverside app. That's what we're recording on right now. And it does two things. It does sound balancing. So you're on a separate track as I am. So when I process this conversation we're having now, I could literally edit it down to the gasp or the fart or the exclamation. So I get a transcript of our conversation, and when I edit the transcript, it automatically splices the video and audio. That's really cool.
oh wow.
And then the
Yeah, that's
sound
great.
quality depends on our mic and our setup. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking of even maybe using this app to do the audiobook. So if I can get talent like I've got you on this podcast, we could just read the damn book to each other. And then I
Right.
go and
Yeah.
I get a processed WAV file, and I get individual tracks for you and me and Julie Fazuli and Juliana Webb playing the different characters. And then I can edit. This is my naive assumption that I could do an audiobook of my new novel without too much expense. And then I could make people promises about residuals downstream for
Yeah.
sale. And
There
I
you go.
told Julianne this. I go, I'm going to give you a cut. And she's like, okay. So that's my
Well,
idea.
let me know.
Let's see
Yeah.
how it works. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
I mean,
Let
if
me
you're an indie
know.
author, go indie. And if you don't have that much
Yeah.
disposable income to throw, because to your point, it's expensive to do an air quote professional audiobook.
It's so expensive. I mean, he was worth it. Like, God, he did a great job. I mean, he's this Pacific Northwestern guy, and he did the British accent so well. But yeah, so that's my thing. It's like I would need a British accent for one of the characters, and
Yeah.
finding.
Or have someone who can affect that, right? Kind of fake a good British accent. Another podcast interview, I had Ingrid along with Scott Allen, and he is a professional voiceover guy.
Okay.
And we
Yeah.
talked about the creation of the audiobook of the Hunger Games versus Fallout,
Okay.
new novel that she had, Biohunter, and it was really fun. I put in clips from the audiobook in the podcast, and it's awesome
Oh.
to hear it. When it's really done well, it's so exciting. The monster leaped and ripped the creature's head off. Oh no! Exclaimed the hero.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, when it's done well, it's great. I mean, but it's funny because I'm not a consumer of audiobooks because I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, the voice has to be right. They just have to read it right. But anyway, but yeah, good luck. Let me know
Thank
when you
you.
do it. I'd love to listen to it.
Sometimes you get surprised. One of my favorite authors is Thomas Pynchon. He
Oh yeah.
writes either these small kind of hippie books or these gargantuan encyclopedic, really super dense novels like Moby Dick. He's either one extreme or the other. And for one of his Moby Dick books, one of my favorites, Gravity's Rainbow, it was narrated by, it's a huge book. It's like 900 pages, and I think probably like 250,000 words at least. And for the narration, they got an older guy who's and he was pretty good. He had kind of a raspy voice, and it more or less fit. And it's a lot of hours of reading. So talk about the pandemic. I was jogging throughout all of Manhattan that was all abandoned during
Yeah.
the pandemic, because what else are you going to do? And everyone else was all in their apartment. I'm like, I'm not going to get COVID running outside. I don't care what the crazy people claim. So I just ran all over listening to Gravity's Rainbow on audiobook. And then, just like you're mentioning, it's kind of weird. I was listening to Bloomberg News, and they put on one of the journalists talking about a story, and it was the same guy.
Oh
It was the
no way.
old guy narrating Gravity's Rainbow on Bloomberg News. I was like,
See? What is it?
I was
Like that?
certain it was him. It was him.
Yeah. Wow.
So
That's
talk about
funny.
moonlighting, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But no, yeah, that would be good to have Julianne. She's got a beautiful voice. I mean, she teaches opera. She's amazing.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of characters. Maybe we'll get you in there too.
All right. It's
So,
not even just like an audiobook. It's going to be like a serial or whatever you call it. We've got.
and then it'll be a nightmare for me to like stitch it all together, right?
I was just going to say, oh man. But it's the first time you do it, it will be a learning experience, and it will take you a long time. The second time you do it, it'll be so much easier. So
It up a little bit, and what kind of advice can you give authors like yourself when they're really thinking? I know a lot of our listeners are like, I really want to write that book. It seems you started relatively later in life. It was the pandemic. We're all cooped up. You're loving supernatural. You're feeling inspired. These characters are leaping into your head. They're taking on lives of their own. And then you were off to the races pretty fast. You've got
yeah.
in your library, you've got what, 6, 7 books already? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm about to publish 6, and then book 4 of Matt Ollie's coming out in the late winter, so February. And I've got 3 more that I've got to polish.
Where
And
do
then a
you
sequel to.
where do you get your
Yeah,
energy? How do you do it?
I
And
know.
how can you inspire some listeners who are like, I want to do what TH is doing?
So since a lot of this was written, like I was on a roll. I was really on a roll. I've been kind of in a slump. I'm stuck on this one. So what I would just say is, I was very fortunate to have I have kids. They're all they were all teenager and up, but my husband kept them, so you got to find a quiet place to write, and you got to find, like, if you've got to write when, I mean, you can't, obviously, like if you're in the middle of, you're a surgeon and in the middle of surgery, you're like, I got to write this down.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
You don't do that.
multitasking during the open
Yeah.
heart surgery, your novel.
Yes. You don't, I mean, but like when something occurs to you and you like, oh my God, that's awesome. You really need to, like, as best you can, write it down. Like, just write when you can. And so, like, when I was initially writing, and I worked full time during the pandemic, we did not have to go into work, and things were shut down at work. But I wasn't even really writing then. I was doing a lot of walking. I would do like 6 miles a day, like you said. You're outside. I'm getting. I was brainstorming ideas about the book. And then I just became kind of a mad scientist. So I would get up really early in the morning, and I would just write on my laptop in bed. I'd, come home from work once work started going back in, and I would just write, like, from dinner until like 11, and really just made it. And now I'm like reading more, because I'm consuming books that I'm like, oh, I keep seeing my TBR is so long, because all my book talk friends, they're like, have you read this book? And I'm like, stop doing this to me. But no, we love it. We do it to each other. It's like, it's great. And I'm stuck on this one scene. So I think, instead of feeling like, oh, I have to do this, like, some writers, I think, are like, write 3,000 words a day or whatever. I just say, write, when you can, when you feel like, just drop everything and write if you're feeling like inspired. And, that's the best I can say, really. At least that worked for me. Alex Cross, she's a dynamo. She does the Post-it thing, which I think it's called Gantt. It's like the Gantt, whatever. Anyway, she will be in front of a wall, and there'll be all these Post-its where she's mapped out her stories, like, fully, before she sits down to write. That,
Storyboarded it all out. Some people think that way
yeah,
and create that way. They need to plan. She's
yeah,
a planner.
yeah.
She's a
So then,
planner.
if that might work that's something that might work for some listeners, to really plan it out. I've seen people do it in like an Excel spreadsheet. I'm like, that's too, no. I don't, I don't want to.
My
No,
story just has to float in my head. I didn't outline anything for my book. It's literally
no,
just
me
kind of
neither.
lives in my head, and the characters do the writing for me. The characters are like, they're off to the
Yes,
races. Things are happening.
yes, yes, and that's also important. Um, I guess what I mean, like, when you're inspired to write it down, and it doesn't matter where in the book. Like, some of my Matt and Ollie books, I wrote like the middle of the book, and then I would go back and build up to it. So, like,
Yeah.
if you come up with this scene, and you're like, oh my God, that would be, this is a great scene. Write the scene, and then you can build the story around it. That's how I work. I can't
I think that's
storyboard per
great
se.
advice. And I think the big takeaway here, it depends on who you are and how you're built. If you're a planner, plan. If you're spontaneous, be spontaneous. The key takeaway here, though, is it's not going to happen by itself. So make time, stay focused, get it done, and turn it into a lifestyle, which is, you can't just sip an
Yeah,
espresso in a coffee shop and say, "Oh, I'm a writer," and then spend 5 minutes and then move on to something else. You do it. You are what you do.
right.
And if you're writing,
Yeah,
then you're a writer. And you write the way
yeah,
that's appropriate to who you are, how you're built, what you like, and
yeah.
where it comes naturally. And my next question is, I think the biggest one is, how do you get over the stumbling block of perfectionism? Oh, this isn't good enough. I suck. This is, in my head, I have this awesome scene or this incredible character, and the second I put words on a page, it sucks, and then that's it. I'm done.
Right. Oh, yeah, because there is that whole, like, you know, when I said I wrote Twinkies and Beefcake in 6 weeks, so that I spent the rest of the year editing it, my husband was like, at some point you just stop. You just have to put it out. You have to stop, because you can tweak things endlessly. You
Right.
just have to come to a point where you can't fall prey to perfectionism. Now, of course, I go back, I look at Twinkies and Beefcake, I'm like, that's missing a comma. Oh, that's a typo. Like it happens. Like even if you have a lot of people reading it, typos get through, and I'm very forgiving of that when I read that in a book. But so yeah, you can't be too much of a perfectionist, because that you get in your own way. The other thing I would say, like if you have a great scene in your head and you write it and you think it's crap on page, um, reading it aloud helps. It helps you with your flow,
Yeah. Great idea.
and then that way you catch. Sometimes you catch yourself using the same word over and over again. You're like, you didn't notice it when you were writing it, but then you're like, I said pretty, like pretty lot, a lot. So yeah, always good to read it aloud.
Awesome
So,
best practices. TH
oh,
Forrest, thank you for making time in your busy writer and working
yeah.
day to be on the Writers Pod.
Thank you so much.
You love your M&M and it pours out and you do it. You're
Yeah.
also great at networking and connecting with people and creating community by joining community. You've learned some of the tricks of the trade of publishing your book on multiple platforms to maximize distribution. You have an awesome business model where you've created the Holdorf Press, right? Am I getting that right?
You,
Dedicated to your friend and mentor in a sense, where you're going to help other indie writers do what you do. And you have these writing best practices, which are phenomenal too, which is don't let perfectionism get in the way. Read your stuff out loud. If you're a
very good.
writer and you consider yourself a writer, then just STFU and write,
Yes.
make it happen, and then get it out.
Right.
And lastly, just kind of barf it out if you have to. Get it out on the page, and
Yeah.
then be brutal to yourself as an editor to make your writing even better.
Yeah.
And
Yep. Yeah.
network. Thank you. I'll follow up with you on
Yeah.
these other possible guests because I'd love to just learn more and meet other writers and folks who are out there kicking butt and taking names in the indie writer creative world. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like,
Thank
comment, share,
you.
folks. We're going to have
Yeah.
links to all of your websites and books and your new
Oh,
press.
great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And we'll chop this up into little video bits too, so we can share the little golden moments between us. That'll be fun.
Perfect. That
Thank
sounds
you.
great. Yeah. And anytime to be back, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It would be fun to have like a couple of authors.
Maybe in 6 months, a year, see how Holdorf Press is doing, see how the writing biz is treating you, and talk about your next book. Because at this production rate, I'm sure you're going to have more adventures of Matt and Ollie
Oh yeah.
hitting the
Oh yeah.
world. There's more raucous sex and fighting and adventures in
Yep.
in in posh England.
Right.
Thanks so
So,
much.
well,
Take
thank you.
care. Yeah,
Yeah.
bye bye.
Bye.